Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at the third submission by Joan of her horse, Legend. Legend is a horse that she's been working on for about a year or so, I think, and in the previous submissions, this horse was quite dropped through his back, and she's done a really good job of getting him stretching out and working over his back a lot better than he was in the beginning. So this is starting out in a good stretch in the walk. Could be just a little bit more active in swinging there, but you just notice as he stretches down, once again, notice how much better the footfalls are when the horse stretches forward and down in the neck. It frees the back end to be able to come forward and through. So getting to the trot work here, this is pretty good long and low work, and what I really feel is that this is still where this horse needs to be, is down here most of the time. And once you get him there, just get him a little bit more active and try to get him a little swinging through a little more. He's still a little earthbound in that he's not really pushing much up off the ground yet. But I know you guys have had a long, hard winter there, and people have not been able to work consistently. So you have my sympathies from the warm confines of California. So you've all done a great job of keeping horses going throughout a terrible, terrible winter like you've all been through back there this year. But the beauty is that when we train horses correctly, when we come back to training, even if they've had some time off from injury or weather or whatever the case may be, they come right back to work pretty much where they left off. They will have lost a little bit of muscle, but you pretty much come back to where the mental state is once you just get them over the freshness, so to speak. And that's what I feel like you've done here with this horse. So once again, this is a good stretch with him. I really like how he works here. Though once you get him there, I just feel like you could ask him to come through a little bit more, just ask him for a little bit bigger stride in that trot. As I said, he's still a little earthbound, but it's certainly headed in the right direction, developing nicely. Now we can still see this horse has quite a pretty big dip there behind the saddle, which tells us he isn't totally prepared to come too high up yet, so to speak. But if you keep up this work, he will be in not too distant future. Good rhythm, gets a little hollow right there, but I love how you just push him through to your hand. That's really just exactly what you want to do. Remember, the horse can only close from the back to the front. It can't close from the back to from the front to the back, and that's how people get into so much trouble trying to pull horses' heads down, and why we've ended up with so many horses that are less than happy, let's say. So you can even see him here that when he gets his head a little bit high, he tends to skip a little bit and loses his footing there a little bit. So that's really about as high as we would want this horse's head and neck right there, and probably most of the time even still yet a little bit more stretched, a little more deeply. But this is a good job, and that's what we want to do, is we want to bring him up and see what we can do. Though he tends to come up a little too high suddenly. So we want to make that a more gradual thing. He tends to bring his head suddenly very high, so to speak, and then he drops his back a little bit. So we have to be very slow with a horse like this, until that back develops more, that we bring him up very slowly. You can see how even when his head is up that high, he starts to lose his frena end and kind of pull along with his shoulders again. So once again, from this position, we need to get him more active and swinging there and just a little bit lower and deeper. That's a little higher that he can really hold his pole there and maintain the trot. You see how he struggles in the front end there a little bit? So we need to get that neck longer and keep it there. Of course, we always want to try, and that's what you're doing here, is you're trying to bring him up and you see what happens. And if you find that once again, if we lose the back or we lose the rhythm, or both in most cases, which is what we see happening here, then we just want to stretch them back out till we are able to reestablish that position of the back and reestablish the swinging through the back and the bigger step. And how much better he looks here. Once he lowers his head and neck a little bit, you see how the shoulders move more freely and his step is actually longer. So we can see that that's about as high as this horse's neck should be, is about right there for his level of development right now. And once again, remember, when horses are correctly trained, it's the back end that lowers. The head and neck just are wherever they need to be relative to the horse's conformation. Some horses have, necks that come pretty much straight up in the air out of the shoulders, so to speak, and others, more thoroughbred types, are longer horses that need to stretch out more straight forward in the neck. That's the natural position, like with thoroughbred type horses. So, but that they can all collect. Remember, collection is something that happens in the back end, not in the neck. Whatever position the horse has in the neck is just, whatever is necessary to allow him to work completely through his back that will allow collection to happen. So some horses are going to have a very high head and neck position, others not so much. But they all certainly need to start low, no matter what kind of horses they are. There are some people who believe that these Lusitanos and Andalusian type horses, that they don't need to do that. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Same thing with Frisians and those kind of horses. And that was the one thing, you know, which we rode these horses with Nuno Oliveira all the time. And, you know, he always insisted that the necks be out ahead of them. They were never shortening the necks back. So that's the biggest thing that we see. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are attracted to this kind of horse and also to Arabs and things, they immediately, you know, they don't have enough education in many cases, you know, to really know what they're looking at. So they like that high head and neck set because it looks like something to them that they have in their mind of seeing a correctly trained horse. But once again, that's only a symptom of a correctly trained horse. So if we start there, the rest of it won't work very well. So once again, if we start from the back and get the horse working through and develop its top line, then it can lower its back end. Then we have real collection when the horse lowers the 3 joints of the hind legs. If those of you who don't know what that looks like, I suggest you take a look at the video that I did on collection versus working trot, where I take the one horse from working trots into collection. And you can see how the horse elevates its forehand. So in real collection, the horse lowers its hindquarters and then lifts its front end off the ground. So the whole forehand elevates, not just the legs. If the legs are snapping up in the air and nothing else is happening, that's nothing. That's not collection at all. That's just a flat, hollow horse lifting its legs up like a saddlebred or something like that, which dressage should be the antithesis of that. So pretty good trot here. Once again, you can see how he gets his head high there a little bit. He stumbles through the corner a little bit. And that's when he loses it, when his head gets a little too high. Now, this is a little better here. His head's a little higher than it was before, but you're still keeping him active and swinging. Once again, he still struggles, you can see, with those corners there, which is why with young horses we want to keep what we ask them to do, you know, to what they can do. So if we ask for an exercise and we lose the rhythm, which is the foundation, and the horse over its back, really the exercise has no value at all. I mean, going sideways, you know, unless you're just opening a gate, for instance, that sort of thing, where you're just doing a turn on the forehand to do like gate opening or something like that, that's a different sort of thing. That's just positioning the horse relative to, you know, where it is in space, but that has nothing to do with developing a horse over its top line. Now this is a good trot here. Now once again, look at when he stretches like this, look how much freer the shoulders look there, and he swings a little better, though it still needs to be sent through a little more actively there. It looked like he was getting a little tired there towards the end of that. But I like how you come back to a beautiful stretch there again, once again letting it way out in that neck. And I like how he's not curling back, but stretching the neck out and down, and that's what we're looking for. He could even stretch a little bit deeper with this one than from where he is right there. And once again, you want to keep your contact a little more consistent. So once again, the stretch is not just dropping the reins. It's getting the horse to go in contact in a longer frame. That's all that it is, but it's still riding the horse in contact. Now, once again, that contact means the weight of the rein, not a constant pulling back. If you are pulling back against your mouth of the horse all the time, it's quite simple. You are punishing the mouth of the horse. So the horse is never going to truly accept what it is you're asking him to do if you're hanging on him. Good, and back in this trot again. That's quite good right there. And of course, horses in the beginning are going to be on their forehand. You know, as they develop, then they lift themselves off of the forehand. But if we shorten their gaits and hollow their backs, no matter how high they lift their legs, they'll still be on the forehand. Not a bad leg yield there off of the rail. Once again, his head got a little too high for him, but I like how you didn't try to force it onto the bridle there. And it seems like every time he does that, he tends to stumble a little bit. So once again, that tells me he needs to be out and a little bit longer and through. But that's what you did. I mean, you tried the exercise, it got a little high, and you went back to more active and swinging forward. That's exactly what you want to do. Right here, I feel like he could just be a little bit more active. You could just give him a little tap with that whip and send him on. I think this horse is ready to come through a little more maybe than sometimes you're asking him to do there. There, that's better though. That's getting better there. Came up a little bit again. Your position and everything looks very good, by the way. It's developing absolutely beautifully. All right, now that's a little better. Now this time his head and neck is up a little higher, but it wasn't quite so bad that time. He didn't slow down quite so much. But I like how, once again, after going through that corner, you're sending him on forward again, exactly what you want to do. It still could be a little more swinging and active. And once again, you see how with the head in this position, how he kind of stumbles along on the front end there. So that's a little higher than he should be. So from that position, we'd want to just send him on and get a little more active and get that shoulder swinging again so the whole back can swing through. That's a little better there. That's an improvement over the first attempt. And that's all you want to do with the shoulder in the beginning, just a little bit of a shoulder forward position. So again, getting a little bit too slow through those ends down there. I'd like to see you send him on. But at this point, he needs to stretch out a little bit more. Once again, see how the shoulder in here, he's just bringing his head up a little too high and kind of stumbling a little bit on the front end there. So we want to get that shoulder in, but we want to get it with a little bit lower frame. So he's stretched more into the contact. There, now that's a better trot for him there, even though it still could be sent through a little more, but that's better. This is one of those horses you can very clearly see when he slows down. You can see him just sort of pull with his shoulder rather than swing through and lift himself up with his hind legs. Same thing here. His head and neck is just a little bit too high. You can see how he's kind of, the front end has kind of shortened again. Good. Now you're getting him back into a better frame. There. Now that's better. Now see how all of a sudden it smooths out and the shoulder is able to swing and we get a longer stride with that front leg. So that's what we want to see all the time. Anything that shortens him up is not very good for him at this level. So, you know, with this horse as undeveloped as he is over his back, now, having said that, however, this is better than he's looked in the past. So good job. There, that's better. Letting him swing out, stretching there, there. Longer his neck gets, the longer his stride gets, and that's what we want. We want to start with the longest natural stride that we can get. Not a lengthening where he's running a little bit, but rather just that slow, steady over the back where he's swinging optimally, but not yet a lengthened stride. That's what we're looking for in each and every horse that we work. Same thing there. You can see every time his head comes up how he kind of stumbles a little bit. He shortens up in front. As soon as you get him back stretching again, this is a good one to watch because you can really see how clearly different that is. Now he gets to that position. Look how nicely the front legs are swinging now. That's much, much better than what he was doing earlier. Good, good through that corner. Very good rhythm. Now this is the best trot we've seen here so far. Now this is really good. You've done a good job getting to here. Now right there when you just send him on a little more, so he started to stretch, but you didn't have enough active legs, so he kind of fell a little bit onto his front end and wasn't swinging through as nicely as he was. But now you've corrected again. He's back to where he belongs. That's really good right there. Really nice job. So Joan's done a great job with this horse. Joan is our clinic leader who we'll be seeing in Ohio here in just a couple of weeks. So we look forward to seeing everybody in Ohio, all our good friends back there that were with us last time, and hopefully some new folks. And anybody in the area, by all means, come and join us. Look on the website at Art2Ride, and you can find out the address and that sort of thing. So great job, Joan. Much improved. And as I said, I know it's been slow work over the wintertime, but you've done a great job. Look forward to seeing you soon. This is Will Faerber from Art2Ride.